Okay. We thank Dr. Stein for taking over the share. It must have been 12 days, no? 13 days, 12, 13 days. It's a lot of Gemara.
14 classes.
14 classes.
Very complicated subject.
Okay. Dr. Stein, we have some chocolates here waiting by your seat.
One of the doctor's favorites.
Doesn't cover the cost, but it shows that we appreciate the Torah is Yikarihim Mipninim, more precious than pearls. Okay. I guess I should go back a few lines to Amalei Ravina Ravashi on 71b. Go back a few lines to that. Now, we had a machleke. Okay, I'm sorry. We're going to start on 71b, 5 lines from the bottom. Let's do that. 5 lines from the bottom. By Amalei Ravina Ravashi. Okay, we thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the schus of our learning, we should have Beis Hamikdash immediately. It's learning for Refuah Shleima, for my father, and for Naftali ben Menupela. Okay, so we had a machlekes between a Meimar and Ravashi regarding Kinyan, how a non-Jew makes an acquisition. A Meimar said that he can make an acquisition by pulling it, and Ravashi said no. He pulling it isn't a Kinyan. It's to pay for it. For it to be the Kinyan. Anyway, the Gemara starts like this. Amalei Ravina Ravashi Tashma. Ravina says to Ravashi, what about the following case? Reb Chia bar Abba is a famous student of Rabbi Yochanan. Gemara tells us that every 30 days he reviewed everything that Rabbi Yochanan taught him. And Rabbi Yochanan would correct him. And he says like this, Ben Noach nerag al pachas mishava pruta, v'leinitin li shavan. Ben Noach, he takes, Ben Noach means a non-Jew. If he steals money from a Jew, even if it's less than a shava pruta, so that's considered stealing, and he would be deserving of the death penalty. You know that the 7 Noachide laws don't have minor penalties. They don't have like fines and these things. Everything is capital punishment by the 7 Noachide laws. So when it comes to stealing, which is one of the 7 Noachide laws, the halacha would apply as well, that he gets capital punishment. Now, the only thing is that how much is considered stealing. So we're saying over here, even if it's less than a shava pruta. Okay. V'leinitin li shavan. Now, the word v'leinitin li shavan is a little bit difficult. It means that it's not given to be returned. It can't be returned. Or it doesn't need to be returned. Now, 1 second. That's a very interesting question. What's considered stealing? When you take something from one possession to another possession. But when you have a sale, there's a kasha on Ravashi. Ravashi says in order to acquire something, you have to give the money. Just pulling it, just taking it is not an acquisition. So if it's not a sale would have, you give me this and I give you the money. You give it, right? There's a transfer from both sides. But if it's stealing, so all you have is just taking it. You never give money. So how do you ever acquire it? So how does it mean you stole? You never stole. It never goes into your possession. Why does he get killed? He gets killed not because of the transfer of property from this one to that one. He gets money. He gets the capital punishment because of the pain that he caused to the Jew. Kiddush. Wanted to ask something else?
There was the whole thing about the return. That excludes the
different. 1 second. We're going to see that in a second. You're talking about the returning part. Wait. Mar says, "My nitin li shavan." We're exactly on top of 72A. What did you mean that you don't have to return it? What does it mean you don't return it? It's not even yours to return. What do you mean you don't return it? If you acquired it and you have to return it, then that would be and here we're saying you don't have to return it because it's so small. See, what happens usually is that by something that's less than a shava pruta, even though you're not allowed to take it, but the person that's missing it, less than that small amount, listen, says, it's nothing. He's Michael. Says, it's nothing. So he's Michael. You know, you also want a penny or something. They don't, unless it's in public.
What if you make arrangements to pay him later?
You have to put all the things back unless you have the last penny.
What if you make arrangements to pay him later? I guess it's like
then it could be a loan. It could be a loan. But a lot of times when it comes to these small amounts, it's person's Michael. So we're assuming that if someone took less than a Shabbat Brut, it'd be Michael. We say he doesn't have to return. The problem over here is, what do you mean? He's Michael, he doesn't have, he never took it. He was holding it for him, but he never acquires it. It says, it doesn't go under the category of stealing. Now, this is a little confusing because what we're really saying now is what it looks like when you're reading this. It looks like we're discussing less than a Shava Pruta versus more than a Shava Pruta. But really, what we're holding right now in the Gemara is we're saying, I don't care if it's less than a Shava Pruta. I don't care if it's more than a Shava Pruta. Whatever a non-Jew takes from a Jew is never considered stealing.
Right,
because he never acquires it.
Let's say it's Shabbos and you need something for Shabbos and you go into, nobody's around, you go into his house and you take it.
And a Jew stealing from a non-Jew?
Not stealing, you just borrow it, but without talking because he's not around.
We call that stealing.
Oh yeah?
Tell it to the cops. Okay. So, Yachi, if that's the case, that it's not, okay, so 1 second, I didn't clarify. What we're saying now is that it doesn't matter if it's more than a Shava Pruta or less than a Shava Pruta. It's never considered stealing, never goes under that category. So why do we discuss less than a Shava Pruta? It's the same thing would apply to even more than a Shava Pruta. Okay. Yachim Aseifa says, if that's the case, then let's read a little further in the statement of Rabbi Yochanan. It said, let's say one non-Jew steals from another non-Jew. The non-Jew stole it from the Jew. Then his friend steals it from him.
Another non-Jew.
Another non-Jew steals it from him, from the first non-Jew. So the first non-Jew gets a death penalty because of the pain that he caused to the Jew. The second non-Jew gets a death penalty as well because he stole. The Gemara says, 1 second. Bishleim Aresha, you answered the first part of Rabbi Yochanan by telling me Mishum D'Tzar Yisrael, because when a non-Jew causes pain to a Jew, the pain that he causes, that's like his I guess you would say that his purpose of creation, the reason why he exists, is to his mission in this world is to serve the Jewish people. Once he violates that, so then he like forfeits his life. That's the way it would be presented here. Not so politically correct, but right. Same like the Jew in the Torah.
Jews were people were supposed to set up the world for the Jews, right? So they're serving.
Exactly. So it's now the question is like this: Ela Seifa Mayavid. When it comes to the Seifa, when it comes to the second part of the Mishnah where it says that the non-Jew steals from another non-Jew, so what did he do wrong? He didn't steal because all it is in his possession, but he never changed possession. He's holding on to it, but it never changed possession because how do you acquire a non-Jew? How does a non-Jew acquire? He has to pay the money. Since it's stealing, there's no transfer of money. So just taking it itself, according to Rav Ashi, doesn't acquire it. So what are you telling me that he's stealing? He's not even stealing. And whose pain is he causing? Is he causing pain only to the non-Jew? Causing pain to a non-Jew is a death penalty. Rather, we're going to have to say that Mashiach is kind of when you pull it, you actually do acquire it, even if there's no transfer of money. Shmamina. Okay, so this is a rejection of Rav Ashi's din that Mashiach is not kind of. Did I say everything correct? That's this time. Skama.
Believe me, anything you say.
Who Gavra? There was a person, Damle Lechavre, tells his friend, Imes Avnina la Lahara, Lachamas Avnina la. This sounds like a classic case. Tells his friend that if I ever sell this property, I'll sell it to you.
Wow.
And Rashi adds in.
I saw Ella Seifo. This Ella Seifo is the second guy that steals it.
Right.
It's not just real estate, though.
The second guy that steals it, but the Sefer means the end of the Rabbi Yechanan statement.
Is that just real estate or everything?
That's a good question. So far, it's real estate, but it could be in what reply to other things as well. Let's see a little further. He says, if I ever sell this property, I'll sell it to you. Now Rashi adds in that v'kanu minei b'kinyan. He made a kinyan on this. Now, what would a kinyan be? A kinyan would be to lift up his gartel, yarmulke or something. He made a kinyan like a kinyan suda. Now, there's two possibilities of that kinyan. One possibility would be that we made such a good verbal agreement that we even made a kinyan on the verbal agreement. Now, a kinyan on a verbal agreement really doesn't work. It's called a kinyan dvarim. It doesn't really work. They have to say that when Rashi says that there's a kinyan, they have to say actually made a kinyan on the property. That if it's ever sold, it's like retroactive. If I ever try to sell it, it's directly to you. Like retroactively, it's going to be sold to you. That's what it looks like. Sorry? Oh, one second. Oh, Hillel and Abaya, something similar to say. It says, Azal Zavne Leina Shachrina. The guy went and he sold it to someone else, not to the person that he said he was going to sell it to. Rabbi Yosef says, Kanakama. There was a kinyan over here. The first person acquired it. Right when he tried to sell it, that was the condition of the first sale. He fulfilled the condition. He was about to sell it. Condition was met, and then it gets sold to the first person. Amalei Abaya says, "Well, pasuk, but he never made up a price. You don't make up a price. How does he know that the person's really gonna buy it? Can't be that it's sold to the first person. How do we know that? From where do you know that anywhere we never made up a price, you're not kind of detanan? Because we have a Mishnah that says the following: if someone sells his wine, Jewish person sells wine to a non-Jew, he makes up a price before he measures it out. So dam of mutarim, and the money that he made up is going to be permissible. The money that he gets for now, what the Mishnah is discussing is that you can't sell yayin nesach. What you need to sell is kosher wine, and when the non-Jew takes it, it becomes yayin nesach after the transfer of money. So when you sold it, it was kosher. So how do you sell it? How do you sell it without it becoming yayin nesach? You have to make sure you get the money before it becomes yayin nesach. So if you make up a price before you measure it, and you get the money, so then it's going to be yours, right? This is what you taught before. You taught before.
Said it a million times yesterday.
Mada, that's pasak. But let's say you measured it out and you never made up a price, and then dam of asurim, then money is going to be prohibited, because when the person took it, the non-Jew took it, he's going to end up making it yayin nesach. And is it his yet? No, because he didn't pay for it. And it's all of that taking, the fact that he took it into his possession wasn't really an acquisition, because he doesn't know what the price is going to be. When he finds out the price, then it becomes his. Meanwhile, it always belonged to the Jew. Yayin nesach in the property of the Jew. A Jew is selling yayin nesach to the non-Jews. Okay, now. But we're seeing over here is that there's a difference between if he made up the price or he didn't make up the price. If he makes up a price, then it's a good kinyan. If he doesn't make up a price, then it's not a good kinyan, right? That's what we're seeing. So Abaye is saying you have to make up a price before the kinyan in order for it to be good. And in that case where he said, if I ever sell this property, I'll sell it to you, he didn't tell him a price. So it's not a real kinyan. Exactly. That's the idea. Because the seller can overprice it, so you can't say that it's considered a sale.
This last case, I'm sorry, is this, you said where the price, he gave the money? The first guy. When you say the price, he said, because the Kenyan.
No, he doesn't. The Kenyan was the taking it, was pulling it, measuring it, and taking it, and then the money's going to come later because he didn't give him a price. If you can't give him money at that price, right?
Okay, I don't want to jump ahead.
My Havi Allah. The Gemara says now, what is the final halacha regarding Abaya and Rabbi Yosef? Abaya is a student of Rabbi Yosef. And Rabbi Yosef says that the first person acquires the house because there was a stipulation here that was met. If I ever want to sell the house, I'll sell it to you. I wanted to sell the house, and so therefore it's got to be sold to him. That was the stipulation. Abaya says no. Abaya says that there was no sale. So what's the din? When it says my Havi Allah, you're asking what's the din? You just quoted a Mishnah that says Abaya is correct. If you don't set a price, then there's no kinyan. Where it says, no, we still have a valid question, even though we have that Mishnah, because Dilma Chumra Diyayin Nesach Shani, maybe that Mishnah is more strict because of Yayin Nesach. The rabbi said that we're not going to say that he's kainet without designating a price. But maybe in other places he is kainet. Maybe you can't compare a property to Yayin Nesach. Should it really be like that? I mean, like, what's the logic?
One has to know.
In other words, I guess because if they don't set a price, then it still remains by the Jew. And so therefore, by the wine, we want to be more strict. We want to be more careful with Yayin Nesach. That's what we're saying. But by a property, without setting a price, maybe the sale is still valid. Okay.
Even if you set a price, so it's not necessarily.
That we didn't say. Why do you say it?
Yeah. That's my point.
Okay. Tashima, come and listen. Dam Ravidi Baravin. Ravidi Baravin says, Uvda have Bei Rav Chisda. It was exactly such a story in the house of Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda Bei Rav Huna, and Rav Chisda had such a story in the house of Rav Huna. In other words, this is where he got it from back from Rav Huna. Rav Huna was a student of Rav. And they answered it from the following Mishnah. It says, We're talking about someone selling produce, fruits, and he brings over on a camel's back or on a worker's back, and he brings it into the person's house. Whether they made up a price before he measured it out, or whether they didn't make up a price, like Kana. It's not an acquisition. And each of them can retract. Now, the explanation here is that since it's still on the animal's back, it's not considered that you acquired. You have to remove it off the animal's back for it to be a kinyan. Let's say if he unloaded the camel and then he put it into his house. So now there's going to be a distinction. If the price was set before they measure, then you can't retract. But if they measured it out before they set the price, that means to take the measuring it into the containers and all of that. But he didn't know the price yet. then Shnei Michel Machsabem, then they can each retract, which means that Abai is correct, that if there's no set price, it's not considered a kinyan. Yeah. Yeah, when you go to these other countries and they use, instead of pounds, and they use kilograms and things, they catch you on all of this stuff. Also, the transfer of the money is like so confusing.
Versus Mexico.
It's so confusing.
Nothing has price tags on it. So that just depending on your look, they give you the price tag, and then the exchange is different in every store.
And it reminds me of the way they would sell a Stregan. Years ago, you'd walk into the store, he'd look at you, he'd look at the Esrig, he'd look at you, he'd look at the Esrig. So for you, $200.
So what if Gabriel?
And then he'd pull out a Chivas Regal or a Crown Royal, he'd pour you a drink, and then you drink it. It's like we made up a whole thing, a whole big transaction. Yeah.
So what if Gabriel's at his wine store, and a non-Jew comes, and it's the kind of Jew that they vend off the truck, and they haven't fixed the price yet, and the non-Jew takes a case off the truck.
Yeah.
And then Gabriel looks at it so he can check the label and all that stuff. But there hasn't been a price agreed on yet.
Right. Right. But he only has to, it's only acquires it if he decides to buy it based on the price. You would need to know the price first.
He takes it off the truck and puts
Yeah,
it
but
on his chair or something.
nevertheless, if you don't know the price yet, just say take it back. I'm not just going to tell him $1 million.
Okay.
Ahu Gavra. There was a person, he says to his friend, if I ever sell this property, I'll sell it to you for 100 zuz. Now there's a price. He went and he sold it to someone else for 120. Yeah, so he got a higher price. Did I tell you I was going to buy an apartment once, like 20 years ago, and we were in contract. And all of a sudden, they tell us that no, they're selling it to someone else who offered a higher price. I told you this. Turns out that the guy made he left out one of the signatures in the contract to be able to get out of it in case someone else shows up with a higher price. And it was like he was. I mean, it was not menschlich, of course, but he was legally allowed to do that. Anyway, that's Ashkacha Pratas. I didn't want that place. Amar Rav Kana. So here what happened was he sells it to someone else. He told him, I'm going to sell it to you for 100. Someone else shows up and says 120. He couldn't resist. He sold it to the next person. Rav Kana says, Kana Kama. The first person acquired it, not the second person. He even made up a price, even according to Abaya, right? Maskefler Rabbi Yaakov Minahar Pekoid. Rabbi Yaakov Minahar Pekoid steps in and he asks the question. He says, Haizuziansu. He says, if I ever want to sell it, he didn't want to sell it. The guy forced him to sell it. Well, how did he force him? He said 120. He never would have sold it for its value. I said, if I want to sell it, I'd sell it to you for the 100. But this wasn't what I wanted. This was something totally different. This wasn't what the original agreement. He offered me so much more than that price. That wasn't what I made up.
So that's just between Jews.
Would it be different if it's a non-Jew? I'm not sure. It may be the same.
When the first time he offered, he asked, he didn't want to sell it.
Right.
He said, I'll give you 100. He said, no, I don't want to sell it.
If I ever sell it, I'll sell it to you.
Right, for that 100.
He said, if I ever sell it at the 100 price.
Yeah, he didn't want to sell it.
And because later on he sold it the 120 price, that trumped the 100 because
right. Exactly.
he didn't sell it for the 100 to someone else. Right. That would have been a problem. He sold the 120.
Right.
So the original 100 never existed. There was just a discussion.
Right. You didn't mean to say no like that.
Oh, right. That's how you want to learn it? I learned
that's the difference. You want to buy my house. I say, it's not for sale. But you know what? You say, I'll give you $1 million. I say to you, okay, If I ever sell it for $1 million, you have first dibs.
Right.
That's what he's saying. Along comes someone 3 years later and says, I'll give you $1.5 million. I sell it. You have no claim,
Right.
because I never sold it for the $1 million, and I sold it to man number
Exactly.
2 for $1 million. That's
That's not what
Right.
happened with your
Right.
truck.
Will you be quiet,
Okay.
the rabbis here?
Amar lei. Now, if the seller,
So what if the guy, you don't want $1 million, you don't want to sell it for $1 million, and then your intention was not to sell it unless you got more. And then a guy comes by, like you said, in the next year and offers you $1.5 million.
so
Then
according to this, we said Hilchas Rab Yaakov Minahar
it's about intention.
you can
isn't
sell it for the higher, to this person for the higher one. Not, it doesn't have to be for the lower one.
But that's also kind of like open. Like he says, oh, if I'm ever gonna sell it, it'll be to you. Like
I know. Yeah, but it's implied that if I'm ever going to sell it for this price. Well, Amarle, if he says to him, "Kedeshaymi bitlas," I'll sell it to you for how much it's evaluated by 3. Now, in the presence of 3, it's referring to the Bezdin. So afilu trei migay tlasa. Now, the way a Bezdin works, I'm sorry.
here they use 3 rabbis. They use like 3 comps of the area.
Oh, 3 comparisons. So afilu trei migay tlasa. Now, the way a Bezdin works is that it works by majority. So you don't need to have literally all 3. When you have 2 that say the price, that's how that would be enough. Kida amri bitlasa, as it said, like this is more like as it said by the 3. So ad amri bitlasa, then it needs to actually be all 3 unanimous. Kidasaimi barba, if it's the way it's evaluated by 4. Now here it's a little different because when he says 4, and it doesn't sound like he's dealing with the Bezdin. He wants 4 comps, right? Ad amri barba, and now he literally needs 4 people. Because definitely if he says not like in the presence of 4, but as literally 4 people said. Let's say he said, I want it to be, I'll sell it to you for how much it's evaluated by 3 people. 3 people came and evaluated. The other one says, let's get another 3 that know this, know the market better. Amarav Papa says, do you know the Makiv? Okay, that's a good claim. Maybe these guys don't really know what they're talking about. Maskifla Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. Rav Huna Breder Yeshua asks him, he says, Mimai dahani kim lutzvei, dil mahani kim lutzvei. This could go on forever. How do you know? Why? What's you to tell me that the ones that he's going to get now are better than the ones that he had before? It's just another group of people. It doesn't.
It's only witnesses. I just keep bringing witnesses.
Right. Sounds like we talk about like when there's an earthquake, so people start running. They run. But how do you know that you're running away from the earthquake? Maybe you're running closer. Like, hey, like how do you know where you're running to? It's like you're getting another 3. How do you know what's the next 3? These 3, you have no way of weighing this. Okay.
Just not to get names. Earlier on, we mentioned Rav Chisda. I think we did, who was the student of Rav Huna.
Right.
This is not the same
This is
Rav Huna. This is a couple generations later because
Yeah.
Rav Papa doesn't show up till later on.
Right.
So this is another Rav Huna.
This is Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua. Is Rav Papa's friend. Yeah. Very good.
Very good.
I like to
That's just a pretty face.
So I know when they're quoting it and when they're arguing.
Very good.
Very good.
So what's the conclusion here?
Conclusion here is like V'hilchzak Rav Huna Breder Rav Yeshua, that you don't have to get another 3 comps to do this, to satisfy this person's mishigasin. Yeah. Okay. Natal es a mashpech. There's a new Mishnah. Someone took the funnel. The funnel was used to pour from the barrel into the bottle. So he's pouring wine into a non-Jew's bottle. Then he takes the funnel and he puts it into the bottle, the Jewish person's bottle. He didn't wash it out. He didn't clean out the funnel. Now, how do they translate akeves? It could mean something that blocks the wine from flowing out.
Retain.
A retainer.
We were talking about this
Like a
yesterday.
lip.
Something, a little lip that holds the wine in there. So now there's a concern that some of the wine may be from the non-Jewish bottle, and now when he uses it in the Jewish bottle, it's going to be usher. Pouring wine over the non-Jewish, over the yayin nesach, not yayin nesach, but it's wine from a guy. If someone pours from one vessel to another vessel, the one we're talking about, he's pouring it into a vessel of a non-Jew. The vessel that you're pouring from is all acceptable. But what you poured into is going to be usher. You're going to see exactly how this works, and what about what's in the middle? We're going to discuss this.
Wait, does he have to be pouring it into a non-idolatrous vessel, or could Stam be pouring it into another empty vessel of his? That's usher because what's pouring is going through the funnel, and therefore, even though he's pouring kosher wine, he's created yayin nesach in his second bottle because it went through this funnel that wasn't cleaned. Who says it's?
I didn't realize that this was a continuation of the funnel. Is that how it's put in the English now? I thought it was a new case. I thought it was a new case. Yeah, it just says if one pours wine from one vessel to another vessel. I think the funnel case was the beginning of the Mishnah. This is a new case.
In the case of the funnel, does it need to be washed?
It's supposed to be washed, but it wasn't. That's our problem. So we're saying that it's going to become usher.
What we said yesterday is that if, let's say, it's the bottles are pretty big and the funnel is not so big, and they can determine that, not more than 1/60th could have been gained. By going through the.
But here, what we're going to say is that when it comes to yayin nesach, it doesn't work with 1 in 60. Wine is going to make it usher even in 1,000.
Okay.
Okay. Now the Gemara gets into a discussion called nitzuk, and nitzuk has to do with when you pour from one thing to another. Do you say that it travels upstream, the impurity or something travels upstream? Now this also applies to a mikveh, because if you have two mikvahs, one of them has a mikveh is supposed to be 40 measurements, 40 sa. Let's say two pools. One of them has 20 and one has 20. So if you can attach them together, then it's considered 40. But if it's not attached, then it's not a mikveh. So how do you attach it? So you can make a pipe that will attach it. But let's say the pipe is on a slant. So then that slant has that status of maybe it doesn't. The lower one could be considered attached, but the upper one doesn't mean that it's attached. Okay, so this is the discussion here. Tanan Hassam, linked in a Mishnah over there. I believe. Oh, here it says it's in Taharas. Okay, Nitzak v'ketafres mashketefech in a chibur. Talking about joining two things together. Nitzak means the pouring. Ketafres means the slanted pipe that would be attaching to mikvahs, or mashketefech, or liquid that's wet enough that when you touch it, it makes your hand wet, or makes right in a chibur. It's not wet enough that it's considered attached from one to another. Whether it's talking about tumah or whether it's tara. In other words, we'll only say that the lower one is going to be tameh, but it doesn't travel upstream, whether it's on the slope or whether it's being poured, or whether it's mashket tefech. We're not going to say that it travels upstream to make impure or to make pure the water of a mikveh that's above it. But settled water, that's a different story. Two at the same level, that will connect. Rav Huna. Rav Huna steps in. Rav Huna says, "This is Rav Huna, that's the student of Rav, just going back to the second generation." Says, I know that when it comes to a mikveh and it comes to things of impurity, we say that these three things are not considered a connector. However, what do they use in electricity? A conduit? Conductor. So, but regarding yayin nesach, it will conduct affect the one above it, and it will become yayin nesach. Amle Rav Nachman, Rav Huna. Rav Nachman says, Rav Huna minolacha. Where do you get that from? Amalei, I'm sorry, if you say it's because of the following Mishnah, it says, that Mishnah says that the pouring and the slope and the mashkatefeach, the moist liquid, it says that's not considered an attachment for tumah or for tara. Okay, only for purity or impurity. But tumah tara would lay have a chibur. That's, well, you have to be medayik, you have to read it carefully, you have to deduce from it. It's only regarding purity or impurity. You didn't mention yayin nesach. Maybe for yayin nesach, for the wine, it is considered a chibur. You know, you didn't say that detail. So you didn't say that detail. Maybe it's telling me that for yayin nesach, it's considered attached. Even when one pours from one bottle to another, the lower one is the yayin nesach, the upper one gets.
So whether it's a mikveh or wine, you have, like, it's possible to have a mikveh that doesn't have running water into it. There's rules or something how you can do that, right? Mikveh that doesn't have natural water flowing through it. So
Usually a mikveh.
So how do you increase the volume of the mikveh?
You have to get rainwater into it.
Right.
Yeah.
But what if you need to use a vessel?
Can't use a vessel. Yeah. A mikveh, that's the idea of a mikveh, that there was no vessel involved.
Like sometimes they put a thing on the roof and then.
Yeah, they put something there. Okay, they put something that's not a vessel. It means it never is a receptacle. They put a board and the rain falls and it flows down the side and it flows down a pipe that doesn't have any bends in it or something. It can't catch any water, and that will.
Like a gutter.
Yeah, it has to be a. Okay, so whatever the case is, we seem like we have a support for Rav Huna that yayin nesach is going to be more strict than other things. Let's go further. It says it says, but something that's settled is going to be a joiner, a conduit, for one, a conductor, for purity and impurity, if it's both on the same level. You want me to mean bedayak here as well? You want me to be to deduce from this as well that when it comes to purity and impurity, that's considered a joiner, a conductor. When it comes to yayin nesach, you're going to tell me that it's not going to conduct. Well, on the same level, yayin nesach is on the same level, and there's a pipe going between kosher wine and non-kosher wine. You're going to tell me that it's not going to conduct because that law was only said about purity and impurity. Basically, if you're going to try to deduce from what it doesn't, based on what it doesn't say, you're going to end up with a ridiculous halacha and a contradictory. Okay, rather from here you can't deduce anything. Okay, if someone takes a funnel and he measures out into the bottle of the non-Jew, this is our Mishnah, and then he goes and he measures into the Jew's bottle. If there is a lip, a retainer, that there's a little wine left in the funnel, then it's going to be usher. 1 second. How did that retainer become usher? How did the wine that's in the funnel become usher? You poured through a funnel, it goes into the bottle. How did it become usher? Lav benitzik. It must be that as it went through the bottle, it flows from the bottle into the non-kosher wine, and it travels upwards. It travels upwards. That's going to be nitzuk, and that's going to make the wine that's left in the funnel to be usher.
Look at splash.
Tell me, it needs to be what? No, it's
the funnel goes in the bottle.
The funnel goes in the bottle,
and then the bottle fills up, and it touches.
Oh, 1 second, we didn't say that. No, we didn't say that. The Gemara is thinking right here. It's looking for lachas of nitzak. So it says that it's not filling up till it's just traveling back upstream.
Retrograde conduction.
Retrograde conduction.
Salmon.
Oh yeah,
Salmon
is that what that's called?
No, I'm saying
And a salmon goes
upstream.
upstream. Yeah, but it's not actually traveling backwards like a salmon travels backwards. This is traveling backwards like.
Spiritual.
Remember this story with this
Current.
person that needed the bathroom in the subway? So he just went to the bathroom, but it hit the rail, the middle rail. He died. Yeah, they got electrocuted. So
Isn't that part of the
this is
general
sort of
concept? Well,
this
you
is
have to
sort
be
of like that.
We have to be super careful.
The impurity travels upstream against the way it's falling. And okay, so
That was a young guy.
Tani Reb Chia.
This was continuous.
Old guy would go and.
Tani Reb Chia taught. We're talking about like what Josh said, that the bottle started to fill up and it touched the end of the funnel. But if it doesn't fill up, what's going to be, if it doesn't fill up and reach the water level, the funnel doesn't reach the wine level. So what's going to be the halacha? Then it's loy. Then it's not going to be aser. So now you can prove that the nitzuk is exactly the opposite. That if it's just flowing through it, it doesn't become aser. It needed to actually have filled up to it. And it says loy. You're jumping to conclusions here. True. If it fills up to the top and touches the bottom of the funnel, then it's aser. That we can answer. Nitzuk. You want to know about nitzuk? Tibai. That's still our question that we had before. That was our question with Rav Nachman and Rav Huna. That's what they're discussing. Tashma, come and listen. Amar mikeli lekeli. Someone pours wine from one vessel to another vessel. The vessel that you're pouring from is permissible. Ha de beini beini. What about what's in the middle? What's in the bottom is aser. What about what's in the middle? Aser. What's in the middle is aser. How did we get aser if it's in the middle? You only said what's in the top vessel. If you stick your hand in the flow, stick your cup in the flow to catch some, you say that that's going to be aser. How did it get aser? It didn't touch the wine yet. It must be that it travels back. The Gemara says, 1 second, he needs a chibur, afilu the gavei the man and amilitzer. Then why didn't you say what's inside the barrel should also be aser if it travels back? So it's holy kash. That's not a problem. The kamiktav ketufi, what we're talking about is where it's not pouring with the flow, it's just dripping. He's pouring and he's stopping, pouring and stopping, pouring, stopping.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah.
We're not all of us are.
That's
wrong.
what it is. No.
So,
like shooting a water gun, spritz, as opposed to a continuous flow. So each time it's just
Like an old seltzer bottle.
yeah, but if you hold the thing the whole time, it's a continuous flow. That's not what's going on here. That was what I said before, even though the professor started laughing.
if it would be a flow, and not like that, then you would tell me that it would be prohibited. But according to this, let's go further. It says, if you read further, it says that what you poured it into, that becomes aser. Now, if you're medayik from that, what about what's in the middle? That's going to be mutter. This is what you have. Diyukim seisrim. You have what's the ones on top is mutter. Oh, so what's in the middle is going to be aser. One on bottom is aser. Oh, so what's in the middle is going to be mutter. You have contradictory implications. So you can't learn anything from this one way or another. We don't know which one is the main one, and the other one was said just because of that. Tashma, if someone pours from a barrel into a pit, it's aser. The flow that's going from the edge of the barrel down into the pit has yayin nesach, it's going to be aser. We see that the flow itself is aser. That means nitzach chibur. Rav Sheshes says, whoa, hold on. No, we're not talking about that there's yayin nesach on the bottom. We're talking about that there's a non-Jew that's pouring. So of course it's going to be aser. He poured the wine. It says, non-Jew is pouring. I feel so why is the barrel not aser? Why do you only say what leaves the barrel? It says, 1 second. It's not the non-Jew didn't touch the wine. It's only coming out from his power, from his strength. Now, that's a rabbinic law. that becomes asr. So we say who denafik lebroi gozer beirabanan. What leaves the barrel, there's a concern that maybe he touched it. But what's in the barrel, that we're not concerned that he touched it, so we're more lenient about that. Okay. Amalei Rav Chizda, Lanu Suvisa. Rav Chizda says to these people that pour wine, they're wine pourers. I guess that's their job. Maybe they're bartenders. When you're measuring wine for a non-Jew, you should keep stopping when you pour, not to let it go be a continuous flow. Inami nafzi nefutzi, or you should give it a throw, to throw it into his barrel. You have him turn the barrel sideways a little bit, you throw it in. So it shouldn't be a continuous flow. Amlu Rabba lahana shfuche. Rabba says to these people that pour wine, no, 1 second. Savita, the people that sell wine or pour wine. Those are the people I think we had before that sell wine.
That's why you
They
need
sell wine.
Jews,
Okay.
Jews pour wine in a restaurant.
Wine sellers. And now the people that pour wine. Don't let the non-Jew get close to help you, and they're still maybe you're gonna rely on him, and he's gonna like assist you. It's gonna end up coming from his power, it's gonna be usher. There was a fellow that was taking wine.
Just very quick. Lamar said this is very important if you're burning your own chametz on Pesach and you're using one of these like turpentine cans.
Oh yeah,
spritz
the fire.
anytime you make a fire, don't spritz on the fire and keep a continuous spritz because it will ignite and God forbid come back to you.
Just quickly
Always
also,
give a quick spritz.
water.
Go away, quick spritz because someone in this neighborhood many years ago died.
Really?
Yeah. Let me also quickly. Water is wet.
Here he's using a siphon. He's taking it out of a siphon. The non-Jew came and put his finger at the end of the siphon, so not to let the water out, not to let the wine out. You siphon, you put it down, so it will flow, but then you stop it with your finger. So the non-Jew stopped it. Now, if he didn't stop it, then all the wine would have continued out. Rabba says the whole barrel is asur. One of the sages said to Rabba, why is it all asur? You worried about the flow? The flow is traveling back from his finger up to the wine, so that's going to make it asur. That's nitzach chibar. That was a question before. Rav Huna said yes. Rav Nachman said no. Says Shani Hasam the Kulachamra Gish Baskishagar. No, over here he's supporting the whole thing by him blocking that. If his finger wasn't there, the whole barrel would have been empty. So therefore, it's considered like he touched the whole barrel.
With the dike story, we held the other way when he put the finger there. I thought we didn't say that it was.
I don't remember. Maseches, the son of Rav Nachman, says, Knishkinin, Shari. Knishkinins are like straws.
Straws?
What's that thing called with people? Hookah.
Yeah.
They all smoke.
What is it?
They got things coming out of it.
It's a vessel that has a bunch of wide vessel with 2 or 3 tubes protruding upwards from its side. And vessels filled with wine, and people can drink at the same time. Yeah, well, that's a Vahani Mili the Kadam Pasuk Yisrael, but Kadam Pasuk Chavim light. Problem is when you stop drinking, a little bit falls back in. Look at the kids' bottles. So the Jew, if a Jew and non-Jew are there, the Jew has to stop first, and then the non-Jew, so they have to like time it. Rabba bar Rav Huna ikla bereish galusa. Sharla lemishta b'knishkin. The bereish galusa, or they at the house of the Reish Galusa, Rabba bar Rav Huna allowed them to drink with knishkin with this type of straw, even though there were some non-Jews there. Ikeda Amri Rabba bar Rav Huna gufeyesh to b'knishkin. Some say that Rabba bar Rav Huna himself drank from these types of straws, and I guess you just have to be careful to stop first. Okay, let's leave it over here. Have a good day, everyone.
Welcome back, sir. Welcome back.
Let
me be the first one to say welcome back.
See, it's pretty tough given